Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah. Here I am. A little disgruntled this morning. Who called me a curmudgeon? A doctor. I went to see a doctor yesterday, and she called me a curmudgeon. And she said, well, I bet you get called that all the time. And I said, no. I think you're the first. A curmudgeon. I guess I was being sort of... and in fact, I left you like that yesterday, didn't I? And I am, I guess, come to think of it, I am in that kind of a mood in general. If I may allow myself one more little rant before we get things started, I am... I've said this before, but it was months and months ago. And I noted that I'm not the only one to feel this way, and that those who have voiced the opinion I'm about to voice have been shamed on social media and in other places as somehow being, I think it's sexist. And it's come to that. This whole feminist is being called sexist. Well, you know. I lost it yesterday when I guess I was listening to NPR. And you know how all the women on their air sound the same, right? I can't tell one woman from the next on your local NPR station. They all have. I can't possibly do it because it's a voice totally unlike the mine, which is definitely singular. But it's you know, I can see why NPR likes it. There's something. It's always it's feminine. In a traditional feminine way. It's a quiet voice, isn't it? It's sort of, yes, it's a quiet voice. It's a very, I mean, the women are all smart as blazes, and they might even be passionate, but you don't hear it. It's this sort of even-toned, beautifully enunciated kind of elocution. And I guess I was listening yesterday, and whoever the NPR woman was, because as I said, I can't tell one from the other, they all sound like Terry Gross to me. I can't tell who's who. So she was interviewing somebody, another woman, who was very bright too. But I found myself getting curmudgeonly. I found myself getting really annoyed listening to the voice of the woman she was interviewing. And it's a voice that you hear constantly now because there's a new way that young women speak. And I just have to say, I find it unbearable. I really do. So even if a woman is now in a position where she's interviewed as an expert on, you know, not just cooking or baking or whatever, but now she's carrying this other goddamn baggage. And it's this bizarre way that women speak now, younger women. I think you got to be under 40 to speak this way. And because it has become an issue, And I've seen articles written about it and back and forthing about it. And generally speaking, people who are about to say what I am about to say have been shut up. But what it is, and I can't really do it, although I think on occasion my voice does naturally do it, it has a name. It's called vocal fry, F-R-Y. And young women, not all, but a hell of a lot now, seem to be capable of only speaking in that way. I've noticed some young men as well engaging in it. It's hard for me to do it, but vocal fry is not very, I think there's a reason it's called vocal fry. It cannot be good for your vocal cord. But it's because they're talking, there's something they're doing down here. Now, because I have a deep voice to start with, this is not what most of them sound like, because they're doing it with their higher voices, more female voice. And it's this thing that always has that under it. It drives me nuts. I swear to God, I cannot stand listening to someone who speaks that way. And where the F did it come from? So women who for millennia were not taken seriously, finally, just in my, when I do it, it's because in my lifetime, finally start to get taken seriously. And now these young women come with another impediment. It used to be the female impediment in voice was that she spoke like this. In other words, in a higher pitch. And I recall a man I worked for in television back in the 70s saying, "Nobody wants to hear a woman doing the news. Your voice lacks all authority." Oh, well, I see. But I guess it's because people just aren't used to hearing a woman's voice put in a position of authority. So now women get listened to, but they come with this, what is it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because this is worse than the so before everything, every utterance. So, and how are you today? So, and what is your position on this? So, and why did you say that? So, and then add to it, ladies, stop it. It is unbearable. It is awful. I'm not the only one who thinks this. And it's not something that is innately female. It's something that has been adopted. I don't know anyone who talked like that before. Where did it come from? Is it coming? I can't do it. Is it coming from a misguided place where you think you're making your voice sound more authoritative? Like you're trying to go low and it ends up just going, I don't know. But I can't stand it. I literally turn people off. You know, if it, God forbid it's one-on-one. I'm just looking for a door to run. I literally am that turned off by it. Just had to say. Because I turned that interview off. I could not listen. It's as bad as the Valley Girl upspeak shit that I don't hear as much anymore, but I guess it's still there, or else I've just given up and gotten used to that. where a woman makes a definitive statement and instead of putting a period at the end, she goes up like it's a question. It's very warm today. And then you add the vocal fry. It's very warm today. And I am losing my mind listening to these young people talk. And I want to know where they got it. Jesus. Stop it. Okay, there. I am in a curmudgeonly mood, aren't I? But I'm being perfectly honest in my, that is my heartfelt reaction. And there's so many of them out there that there clearly is no stopping it. And now this is how young girls will think women sound. Shit. It drives me crazy. Okay. Oh. Do I feel better after venting? No, I don't. And then after having a rant yesterday about the preferred pronoun shit and the LBGTQISTWXYZ stuff and the, all of that, and I expected, to get, I really didn't get much pushback. In fact, what I got were people saying, I agree. And these are all, people who they're not homophobes. They're just, please, just slow it down and stop. There's something, I don't know. See, here's my problem. I'm anti-authoritarian. I have been since day one. I have trouble anytime anybody tells me what I can or cannot do, what I can or cannot say. I don't like that. And in that regard, I'm a quintessential American. I'm a free person. I decide. And I cannot stand, whether it's coming from the left or the right, I cannot stand all these orthodoxies and these, you can't say this and you can't say that and you should do this and you can't do that and you can't blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah. And I just want people, I think people should, as you know, I go out of my way not to, well, fuck it, I don't have to, anyway. So most of what I got back was totally agreeing with me. The one more nuanced was from Bill, and I'm going to read that. As a gay man, I feel the same way about the pronouns and the alphabet soup acronym of the queer community. Maybe it's our age. And he says, I'm 57. Well, geez, I'm a lot older than that. But okay, I'll let you be in my age cohort. But if it goes down to you're 57 and on top of it you're a gay man, I'll welcome the camaraderie on this. And he says this, it took me a while to wrap my head around gender issues. I now understand that many people suffer being born into a body that doesn't fit their internal narrative of who they are. And I understand that too. I do. I understand that. I'm happy to see so many transgender people walking around and applaud their courage, God knows, to be able to embrace that internal narrative and live it in their everyday lives. I remember when I was fully coming out in my 30s and felt the need to be militant and cram my truth down the throats of those that opposed me. I don't feel that way now. Of course, a lot has changed in those last 30 years. I like to think that I've gotten wiser, but I also think that the people coming to grips with their own unique differences need to be able to wave their flag for a bit. I agree that the right takes the left's embrace of all people and uses it against us. If the left didn't embrace the rainbow of people, we wouldn't be Democrats. But we do need to find a way to convey that we also understand that the average Joe and Josephine is equal to him, she, they, them, blah, 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 blah. Love you, and if any of my fellow lefties desert you, fuck them. Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Yeah, of course, it's a complicated issue. I'm just, you know what? You know what I'm doing here? I'm doing something that a lot of people are afraid to do. I'm speaking my mind. And when there are orthodoxies afoot, speaking your mind is an act of courage. Now, you can say, okay, so all these racists we're now seeing speaking their mind. There you go. Yeah. I don't know. It's all too complicated for me. But I don't like feeling intimidated to where I can't talk or say what I'm thinking or feeling for fear of being on the wrong side. And I think that probably most people live in that kind of fear now, and they don't speak up and they don't say what's on their mind, and maybe that's always been true. But as I said, I don't care if the censorship is coming from lefties or righties. I don't care. My reaction is leave me alone. We have a call. Caller, go ahead, please. Hello? Caller?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I thought it was somebody. No, I was going to tell you, thank you for acknowledging that about the young women talking that way. I've been telling my wife that when I see the shows, and she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, no, they drag their words or something. I don't know what it is. And then one time my daughter came over and she did it. I said, oh, my God, it's a new way of talking now for the younger women.
Yeah.
I just...
Isn't it something? It's so awful. And it's awful. And it's new. I mean, maybe there used to be, I think, we all manipulate our voice. I manipulate my voice a lot. So there are times when I can hear myself doing that kind of thing. But it's for effect. And a good way of speech should not have, it should, and it shouldn't have that rumbling beneath it. It's very disconcerting. Right. Oh, well. Well, it is what is. I don't know, but I ain't
It's on the animation, too. Because, there's a show called Bob's Burgers, and he's got a daughter on there.
Yeah, and she talks to him. Sure.
She does that dragon, too. And it's the voice is done by a man. Amazing.
Oh, dear God.
Exactly what it is.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
We'll all suffer together.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep.
Yeah. Bye. Yeah, Milton has sent me, I remember, this is what caused the uproar. Naomi Wolf, feminist in relatively good standing, depending on who's deciding, wrote a piece in The Guardian begging young women to stop this. Stop it. And she says, what's heartbreaking about this is that she's talking to the young women who are talking like that. Yours is the most transformational generation, and you're disowning your power. I think so too. It's hard to listen to. And if you can't be, people don't want to listen to you, you're disowning your power. I'll just read a little bit of it to you. I'm not coming out of nowhere here. She says, patriarchy is inventive. The minute a generation of women has figured out how not to be enslaved, some new cultural pressure arises in the form of internalization, making sure they don't get too far too fast. The latest example, the most empowered generation of women ever, today's 20-somethings in North America and in Britain, is being hobbled by something as basic as a new fashion in how they use their voices. Many commentators have noticed it, often with dismay. Time magazine devoted a column to it, and it's called Vocal Fry, F-R-Y, noting a study that found that this speech pattern makes young women who use it sound less competent, less trustworthy, less educated, and less hireable. And guess who talks that way? The Kardashians. It's a guttural growl at the back of the throat. The less charitable refer to it privately as painfully nasal, and to young women in conversation sounding like ducks quacking. And I got to tell you, this article, all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose. And I remember hearing on NPR, probably being interviewed by one of the women there who's, I can't tell apart. They had a linguist on, a woman linguist, who jumped all over people like me and saying that this is, females, that it's perfectly normal, perfectly okay. And I remember listening to that interview in absolute disbelief. Lynn writes, it drives me crazy too. I don't know why anyone would do that to her voice. It clearly will hurt it over time. I agree. It seems like you are right. It seems like you apply that tone to your voice, an overlay, so to speak. You apply it, right? It is something. Babies don't grow up talking like that, and no, girls didn't used to talk, but now it becomes perpetuating because young girls have older sisters, and girls who want to belong like to all sound the same, and they adopt this way of talking. Ugh. Okay, I should just move on to bigger stuff, but I got to tell you, I think it's big in that I like Naomi Wolf. I think it's big in that I think it takes women who are now at a optimum time. They are the most luckiest women who ever lived on this earth. These young women in the United States and Britain and other places, not all that many, who have literally pretty much broken free of the extraordinary constraints that were placed on women. And what do? They hobble themselves. There's people right back there in that room that talk that way. Drives me nuts. Okay. What else? Did you see this? And speaking of, now when I was getting on the alphabet, LBGDQ, SRB. But the fact is, when push comes to shove, I know where I'm standing. But did you see that 16 states have filed a joint brief asking the Supreme Court to rule that it's legal to fire people for being transgender? This is why you got to stand with these courageous people. Listen to the states. Big shock. What do you think? Am I about to name pretty much the Confederacy? Yes, I am. However, there are some that are not. There's some of those big square states, and then there's a Mormon state. Oh, I'm not supposed to say Mormon. And then there's that state of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have decided that Mormon is not the proper name. Okay, listen to these states. Nebraska, Alabama, Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wyoming, Kentucky, Maine, and Mississippi. Just saying. Oh. And here, this came from a gentleman I've not heard from before. His name is James, and he says he's in Wildwood, New Jersey. And he says, during yesterday's show, I thought you might have a nervous breakdown when you spoke about President Trump. If the president has such a powerful effect on you, perhaps it would be wise if you spoke about somebody else. Well, actually, James, I really have been very good at avoiding the subject. For instance, today, have I yet ranted and raved about the president warning darkly that if the Democrats prevail at the polls in November, there'll be violence? Did he say violence? No, violence. Because you know how violent us tree huggers are. Yeah. I'm not going there. I try not to follow his every fart. Oh, gosh, Milton, you're something. He's now sent me the NPR interview I referenced with the, and yeah. Oh, here's how they title this interview I heard from that woman who was excoriating people like me. And they say that this interview is from that upspeak that I referenced to vocal fry. It says, are we policing young women's voices? No, we're just giving young women some helpful advice from old women who did an awful lot of work getting them to the better position they're in than we sure as hell were at their age. And we are suggesting to them that they stop undermining themselves. And I'll tell you another thing. It is true that we older femmes are really, don't understand a lot of what passes for feminism now. And it looks like it goes right back to what we were trying to get away from. Women as scared little things who need safe spaces, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And, when you have sex with us, you have to ask permission for every move you make. Come on! Okay, I don't know why I'm in this mood. I slept okay last night. My son asked what I was going to talk about on the show, and I said, I'm going to give people a recipe for how to get rid of an ice cream headache. And he said, you mean like this? And he put his tongue up and way back in his mouth. And I said, yeah. He said, God, Mom, people have known about that for 1,000,000 years. So I won't tell you. But I get here, just so you know. It also says, press the pad of your thumb to the roof of your mouth and try not to throw up. But if you're in a situation where you can't do that without somebody saying, what the hell are you doing? You can just sort of put your tongue up there. And what you're doing is trying to warm up the bundle of nerves that are at the back of the throat that have gone berserk because of the ice cream. Okay? You could also drink something warm. There, I just said it, even if you knew it, because I said I was going to do it, and damn it, I like to be true to my word. I'm looking. Jesus H. Oh, here's something else I could. Ooh. Do we have, has Ugo called in yet? No. I have a guest, I hope, will be calling in. And he's in Puerto Rico. Or as the president says, Puerto Rico. Right? You remember him doing that? Puerto Rico. And thinking he was being so funny, he kept doing it. Puerto Rico. My tongue left me there for a second. Rico. And Puerto Rico is in the news today, you might have known. Not for a great reason. I actually booked this guy before the study came out saying that a hell of a lot more people died in Puerto Rico during Hurricane, which one was it? Maria? Maria, I will never stop saying Maria. It's Maria. I actually hit that note. Yikes! That was amazing. I can't hit any note, and that was a high one. I hit it. I guess sometimes just, it happens just because you're, after a while, you might hit it. So while waiting for, I was texting him saying, how do I pronounce your name? And he was so kind. He actually, he sent me he said it and then sent me the sound, and I still can't do it. But it's Hugo, but it's Ugo, right? Ugo. And Marin, I think, or I don't know. I never took no Spanish. That's my problem, so I don't know. But he's down there, and I'm not going to get into it till he's here. How much scary stuff do you want to hear? Because I got a lot of it here. I really do. I realize that, sometimes that sounds like I'm doing vocal fry, but it's not. That's because my vocal cords are fried. I don't want to sound like that. When my voice gets fry-like, it's because it's showing, I guess, its age, or that I ranted a lot the night before, right? Because ideally, your voice has this clear as a bell sound, like the NPR ladies. So it turns out, I just did the so. It turns out that the vaccination nonsense where people, and you see measles are way up in a whole bunch of states. Things that we thought were taken care of are now coming back because of idiots, and may I say, mostly on the left. These are like, the people, the new agey types who don't want to taint their bodies or their children's bodies or whatever. And by not having their children vaccinated, of course, they put a lot of other people at risk. Turns out the Russians, the Russian bots, they weren't just doing the election stuff. They were also fomenting trouble in the anti-vaccination and pro-vaccination camp. So what this shows is that this Russian interference is much bigger, actually, than getting Donald Trump elected. It is the ultimate end is to get Americans at each other's throats. And I could say to the Russians, you can stop now because we sure as hell are at each other's throats. But that's what it's about. It's about destabilizing the country. And so they do it. Apparently, they mixed in a lot with Black Lives Matter. Anything that is a sort of flashpoint or potential flashpoint separating Americans from each other, the Russians are on it. And in the vaccination case, it is now recognized that they played both sides. So that one Russian bot says, don't get vaccines, Illuminati behind it. And then they also post something like, do you still treat your kids with leaves? No. And why don't you vaccinate them? It's medicine. So they're playing us against each other. And I think we were doing a pretty good job of disuniting ourselves, but it's hard to understand how much impact they had as well. So one of the people who are studying these robots said on guns, on race, on something even like vaccinations, these Russian robot accounts take opposite sides because they're only about sowing discord. That's what it's about. And well done, huh? So I think Whirl's going down for sure. Stories all over New York Times, Wall Street Journal. He didn't show up for Mass the other day. He's lying low. You know, he's been canceling all kinds of stuff. There's calls in his diocese for him to leave. So I suspect he will end up gone. I mean, he's old enough to retire. He's over 75. I guess all cardinals who get to 75 have to write a resignation letter that is sent to the Vatican, which usually is, not accepted, but is there. So I don't know. But as riven as we are, the people of the United States, I think you're going to see the Catholic Church enduring a very, very, very difficult time. And, I mean, it's a reckoning that they've pretty much avoided, and it's truly coming due with other attorneys general in other states now under pressure to begin their own investigations like that done here in Pennsylvania. Since the Pennsylvania grand jury's report has come out, hundreds and hundreds of more people have contacted the hotline that was set up to report their abuse. And since the dead cannot speak, we cannot imagine, really, the toll over the years. And I want to point out that it's any patriarchal organization, anytime any religion or if they keep women separated and out, this kind of stuff is going to happen. So you see it in every religion. Yeah. What was his name? The guy who, the despicable pedophile jerk who Trump endorsed for the Senate, the judge, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court there and all this stuff. I'm blanking on his name. And, he ain't a Catholic, but he was using that position of power in the same way. And any time these organizations try to stifle in serious ways human sexuality, they're also asking for trouble. I mean, it's as much a drive in the human animal as is the drive to eat, to survive, right? So I just, I guess my heart goes out to those for whom the church has been a positive force in their lives. And my heart goes out to all the good people in that church, priests, who now are tainted. So that's going to get uglier, as is our own politics. Does anyone think, I had this thought the other day, Lindsey Graham, Jesus H. Lindsey Graham, now openly siding with Trump, trying to get Sessions out as Attorney General. And I couldn't really figure it. Roy Moore, thank you, Milton, I knew you'd be there. I can't. I think Lindsey Graham, does he want to be Attorney General? Is he, it's sort of like those West Virginia legislators who impeached the entire state Supreme Court and then essentially got themselves appointed to those seats. Is Lindsey Graham trying to get Sessions to vacate so that he can have the seat? I thought he was smarter than that, because who the hell wants that? He can't possibly be thinking Donald Trump is going to be a successful presidency, can he? And there's still no Hugo. I bet we've got some problem. Huh? There is a problem. Okay. Well, if we can't get him today, we'll get him some other day. But if you guys can fix it, that'd be good. Well, if he's not here at the moment, let me do another rant. Remember when you used to go to an airport or get on an airplane and there were people on it, instead of dogs? And I am a dog lover. But there is no way that all of those dogs you see on airplanes today are truly support animals. The airlines know it. Everybody knows it. People are gaming the system. And what's disgusting about it is they're gaming a piece of legislation that was intended to try to lessen all of the barriers for people who are truly disabled. So, dogs, as you know, have been trained to help people in many, many ways. And yes, some even are emotional. I mean, anyone who has a dog will tell you emotionally they make you better. It's hard not to be happy with a dog around, because they're ridiculously happy things. But the airline said they were going to crack down on what they knew was abuse. And besides the fact that when you buy a ticket on an airplane and you end up sitting next to a Rottweiler, I mean, I'd be okay, but some people are freaked. Also, some of these wonderful dogs have bitten people. And so the major airline said, we are going to clamp down on this, because we know full well that it's so easy to get some kind of certification saying I need this animal or else I can't fly. And so Delta said they were going to really go after him. And you know what happened in the year they went after him? the number of dogs on their flights increased. You can't, I don't know. They've thrown up their hands. They can't tell who's real from who's not. And so they're letting these people through. And the number, 700 supposedly emotional support animals fly every day just on that one airline, Delta. 700. The odds of you ending up sitting next to a drooling Rottweiler, although I'd rather sit next to a drooling Rottweiler than a lot of other possible people I can think of. Someone with a really stinky sandwich that they start eating the minute you start up, or someone who wants to talk to you endlessly, or somebody who takes your armrest. Whatever. So Delta carries 700 emotional support animals every day, which is way, way up. And animal-related incidents on airplanes have increased by 84% in the last 2 years. Well, of course. So, you know what we've never talked about here? And it's because the world is going insane and we don't get around to everything in just an hour. We have not talked about American complicity in Yemen. Like we don't have enough lousy things we're involved in where we're killing people, huh? Yemen. Technically, we are not at war in Yemen. We are not. We're just aiding and abetting the guys who are, which is Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is killing women and children with bombs we have given them at a rate that is alarming enough to have the United Nations on their backs. When Barack Obama was president, he stopped the sale, banned the sale of these precision-guided military missiles and technology, banned the sale of them to Saudi Arabia. Donald J. Trump comes into the White House and says, what? My friend, the Saudi prince, can have any precision-guided missiles he wants. And so, since Trump, we started arming the Saudis, and they have taken those, well, it makes the name a misnomer, unless they're actually targeting school buses and weddings and playgrounds. Because, hell, I thought a precision-guided missile doesn't make mistakes very often. And Saudi airstrikes have struck civilian targets innumerable times in Yemen. It did almost on a daily basis. Just this month, 22 children running from a war zone were targeted. They're dead. And the 4 women that were running, shepherding them, are dead as well. And then the week after that, an entire school bus, precision guided, made in the U.S. of A. by your tax dollars. And you wiped out a whole school bus full of those little kids. The official count, they say, of civilians, many of them children and women and old people that have been killed, is 6,500. However, that is believed to be way, way low ball. And those who haven't been killed are, of course, suffering. There's starvation going on. This is Yemen. We haven't even talked about Yemen. And it's the Saudis, our friends. And we are giving them all of these wondrously lethal devices that American ingenuity has created. £500 laser-guided bomb. There goes those kids. There goes that school bus. And that's on us. I'm just saying. What do you make of these black evangelical ministers who were at the White House last night or the other night, whatever the hell it was? What do you make of them? I mean, on so many levels, they are turning on what they're turning on their own people, and they're turning on their supposed Christian values. I mean, you got to do quite a dance with the devil to tell yourself that you're on the right side when you are a black Christian pastor and you're laying your hands on Donald Trump, praying for him. Well, he tells you that if they don't get on their pulpits and get their people out to the polls to vote for Republicans, there will be violence in the streets. These are violent people, said our president. This is not Hugo. Oh, I've got a caller. I will see who we got here. Hello? Hello? Ugo?
Hi, Lynn.
No,
Hi, Lynn.
you're not Ugo. Okay, hi.
I am not. My apologies.
No, that's okay. I mean, we
I wasn't aware you were waiting for.
I am waiting for a call, and see what happened is our whole calling mechanism has gone kaplooey this week, and so rather than having a dedicated guest line, we have asked him to call in as you have on that line, and for some reason he hasn't been able to get through. So, okay, I was going to say let's keep it short. I don't know, but I'm no, it's 10:50. No, we're done. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Damn. Shit.
Well, in response to your question.
Which question? I don't even know what question, huh?
About black evangelicals. Why would they meet with Trump? Well, I mean, you can broaden that to
white. Yeah. Christian.
Fundamentalist Christian.
Yeah, I can broaden it to
You support this buffoon at all, but the reality is that they've come to define morality as being anti-abortion and oppressing gay people, denying gay people the same rights that heterosexuals have. So that's their that's the definition of morality now. I think that's what it boils down to. So by their definition, Republicans are moral and Democrats are immoral.
Wow.
I think those are their paramount. Those are the paramount beliefs currently.
It's just anti-gay, and
anti-abortion.
And anti-abortion. Well, those are the big motivators, I suppose. But look at everything.
What stuns me.
Jesus.
I'm sorry.
No,
what
go
stuns
ahead.
me is how anyone how can anyone who's gay or transgender possibly support the Republican Party at all?
Well, I think they're becoming.
Baffled.
They got to be. Lindsey Graham might be the only one left. I mean, they've got to be. Because clearly he's gay, right? Are we agreed?
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows it.
I just wonder, Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering if he's switching his support to Trump because maybe Trump has just said, look, Lindsay, I'm tired of some of the criticism. I'm just going to call you out as being gay if you don't become my quisling, because he'd lose election as
But everybody knows it's been he's been called. I mean, people joke about it.
In the South, it's just this genteel, secret, and it's just not to be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the kind of bullshit society that I think that's what they actually want. Because I think on some level, most of the religious right, except for the die-hard fundamentalist fanatics who actually, would want to see actual culling of gay people, I think most of them realize they're not going to go away. They're still going to be a segment of our society, but they want it to be like it was in the 1940s and 50s.
Right. They want it back in the closet.
Discrimination to be allowed.
Right.
They want them
right.
in the closet.
Right. Right.
Yeah. They want them to be Lindsey Graham.
Pretty much. Right. To deny themselves.
Right.
Well, there are so many so-called men and women of God who are just unbelievable hypocrites and sellouts that I guess it just sickens me. I can't imagine. They will embrace this despicable man paying off porn stars, speaking as he speaks, dividing the country.
Lying, bilking people through a fraudulent university.
Yeah.
Yeah, siding with an adversarial power over America. Sure. Because they've convinced themselves that, all abortion is murder. So it's tantamount to, murdering children. And they've, convinced themselves that, that having openly gay people, being allowed to marry, serve in the military, needing to serve them in public venues like anyone else, let alone, transgender people. They've convinced themselves that's just absolute, moral anarchy. So they've defined those two phenomena as, as the ultimate evils, and so they're going to excuse everything and anything else, as long as they get to pull the strings of power.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, clearly, the one thing, the guiding their lodestar is power, and they keep their eye on that.
Yeah.
That is it above all. So we have, I don't know. Well, when I think of how this ends, do you ever think of how this is going to end? How is Donald Trump going to leave the White House? And what will we, the people, be put through before that? And, your head starts spinning, because I think we're heading into a time so dangerous that it's going to make whatever we've endured for the last 18, 19 months look like a cakewalk. That's my bet. I'm really
I'm
frightened, frankly.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, especially because I think in too many ways, I mean, you still have kind of a hapless, ossified Democratic leadership. I'm not even sure if the word leadership applies. But it's going to get very ugly. The best case scenario would be that information is found that would essentially really damage Trump's finances and the Trump family brand financially. Because I'm absolutely convinced that because of the dealings with the Russian and Eastern European oligarchs he's had to resort to in the last 10, 15 years, because American bankers wouldn't touch him.
Oh, no. There's no doubt.
Putin has...
there's no doubt. The guy is a crook, a grifter, everything. I mean, there is no doubt. But, I was listening. Well, my time's up. I was listening to an interview about Mike Pence, someone who's written a book about Mike Pence, and let me tell you, that's a whole other nightmare beyond belief. But maybe we'll all endure it together. This guy doesn't even comprehend that the country is not a religiously based country. I mean, he doesn't get the most basic part about our First Amendment.
Mike Pence couldn't cut it as a governor.
No.
In
Indiana. No.
And I mean, if there was ever, and I'm sorry to be a little insulting because I liked Indianapolis when I visited, but just like a lot of Pennsylvania, that state is kind of tailor-made for a corn-pone religious goofball like Pence. And if he couldn't hack it there, and he was not going to get through the primary to be reelected, he's much less of a. He's just not. I don't think you could build the same sort of cult following that Trump has.
We'll see. People might be just so happy he's not Trump. You don't know. But I got to run. We're out of time. Thank you. Bye. Okay, guys. Sorry, this was not the show I thought I was doing today. From the beginning, the vocal fry rant, to the end right now. But that's what we got. We'll try to get together with you. We'll try to get this damn thing fixed. Okay? Thank you. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.